Hey, so I was not around and available to do a live last week because I was working on a gratitude video for all the people that came out and helped with the Utopia Festival Black Box Block Party. And so if you didn't see that, go back in the videos. It's one of the last videos I posted. It is just an amateur kind of like slideshow video, especially compared to what Tetron Productions is going to be doing with all of the video that they captured from that event. So we are having an Utopia Festival meeting tonight where we're going to be discussing what's next. Like for example, we're throwing a couple ideas around like an event in October, maybe beginning of November for Halloween. Could be comedy, could be game show. I don't know yet. And then we're also talking about as each of these videos released from the last event that we have a release party. So if you feel one way or another about those, if you think that would be really cool, go ahead, put it in the comments, let me know. And I'm so happy. I just want to celebrate right now about how the event went because for a first event, there were a lot of things that could have went wrong, and those things did not go wrong. And everyone worked really well together. And I think everybody feels pretty good about how it ended up. So now it's a matter of taking the progress that we have so far and building on it so that we fulfill our mission as Utopia Festival, which is uniting communities through immersive esports, tech, and music experiences, which is why I got involved with Heidzalyn coaching with this Utopia Festival project because I love artists. And so that's kind of going to be the point of what I wanted to talk to you about today is art and the importance of art. If you just look around yourself right now, no matter where you're sitting, there's probably some form of art, whether it be a logo. That's a form of art that sometimes people don't think about. Or it could be something useful. Like, for example, I shoot competitive archery and I'm going to an archery tournament this weekend. And so I'm going to shoot my primitive bow that a very talented bow maker out in Montana made for me, James Remp. And he made it out of a piece of dogwood, just a piece of wood, and now it's this beautiful red, purple. I don't know the colors up for debate still, but he named it Red Dog, so I guess we'll go with red. I think it's kind of a purplish red, but I digress. But it's very useful art. And every time I'm out in the woods and I'm looking at my bow, I really appreciate that somebody took the time to learn how to do this, to use this. And going back even further, I mean, that was a really useful tool because there wasn't grocery stores. So you had to hunt your own food. But this sport turned out to be a craft project for me because inspired by this beautiful bow, I'm making my own wood arrows. And so I get to go hang out at the craft stores, love the craft stores. Can hang out at craft stores and do crafts all day if I could. But the problem is I also have a bunch of other interests besides just archery. obviously we know about music and singing and those kind of things that I like to do. And I'm also really getting into making these videos and streaming and editing. And well, I also just like hanging out, meeting cool people and traveling. So my point is, there are so many activities and experiences I want to have in my life besides just the ones that give me purpose, like coaching and mentoring people every day. So I was thinking about this, and rather than striving for work-life balance and putting everything into a different bucket. So for me, it's like, okay, this many hours goes toward work activities, the things that I have classified as work. But then there's this bucket of music activities and songwriting. And, for some people, they might classify that as work. But for me, that's kind of my release and special creative time. So I was putting that in a separate bucket. And then, of course, there's, just relaxing and hanging out. And then there's well being and like exercising and taking the time to eat properly. And then having time to sleep. And oh, yeah, like I should probably call my mom or talk to some of my friends every once in a while. So you've got all these different buckets, right? What if instead of trying to keep everything separated, you could just pour all those buckets into a big, huge pool. And then every day, instead of visiting each of the buckets separately, you just dive into the pool where you get to enjoy everything at the same time. So, for example, rather than having your gratitude time when you start your day out, and it's like about 5 minutes where you're journaling in your gratitude journal or sending a card or something like that. What if you could stay in a state of gratitude all day long? Now, some of you might be thinking, okay, well, that it's just impossible to do all of the things all at the same time and not have them separated. But I would challenge you to see if this was a limiting belief of yours. Because what I'm finding is that the clearer I am on what kind of things I want to be spending my time on, what kind of creative activities would I want to spend all day doing, hanging out at a craft store. Well, how can I start to incorporate some of those things into my work activities that, like, let's just face it, some of the work activities are not the most fun things in the world. So, how do I start to incorporate some of my creativity and arts and crafts or music creation or video creation into the more work related bucket so that I'm doing both at the same time? Well, maybe instead of, doing two buckets at the same time, now suddenly you can be doing three buckets at the same time. You add another one. And so, bucket by bucket, you start to pour them into the pool and you start to get the big picture of how you can incorporate everything into everything that you do all day long. So, that's the bigger picture. And it seems very impossible when you look at it that way. But that's not how you get there, is by doing it all at one time. Like, that's another big saboteur of mine is, oh yeah, like I could just do this all right now, but it doesn't work that way. It takes little bits of practice every day with one specific focus that you start on. So maybe you're going to try and figure out how to combine two buckets first. And once you've got those two buckets combined, then you can grab the third bucket and combine it. But because it takes time, that means you need a support system. Because if you're left alone with the voices in your head, there's a very good chance that they're going to talk you out of doing the consistent actions that you need to make it happen. And so I want to invite anybody out there that has some sort of art desire in their bones, that they're just like, I am not spending enough time working on some sort of creative activity that gives me pleasure, gives me leisure time, allows me to relax, allows me to unplug and not think about anything. Or maybe that creative activity really fuels your purpose, but because you've been working so hard on other things, you just haven't had time for it. I am doing an event on September 5th at 7:30 to 8:30, and it's an open house for you to understand some very small tweaks that you could make in your schedule so you can start to pour all the buckets together into your pool and create an environment where every day when you wake up, you're just going to go enjoy your pool party. And you don't have to worry about how you're going to get from this bucket to this bucket to this bucket and so on. You can have everything that you want all kind of put together at the same time, but it's not going to be given to you. You're not going to just find it under a rock somewhere and then magically, like, the big picture just unfolds. This isn't like a fairy tale. You are going to have some strategy, and you are going to need some support. And so I'm going to talk much more about those two things, and something that you can do even if you don't have a lot of time, if you don't have a lot of energy, if you don't have a lot of money. This event is for you. We're going to unlock one of those so suddenly you have more time, energy, and money, and you're living a more prosperous life. So I guess that's what's going on with me this week. And it looks like Wednesdays have turned out to be my day to come on here and be live. So I will be working on sticking to that schedule for you. This isn't perfect. These live streams, they're not meant to be perfect. They're not my polished product. This is me practicing my art and incorporating it into the other elements of my life. I am not just the coach that is going to help you find the answers inside of yourself so you know what to do. I am the musical prosperity guide that is going to walk with you and be doing all of these things that I'm talking about at the same time as you. I'm going to be practicing with you. I'm going to be going through the highs and the lows with you. And even though most of the time I like to just put like my best presentation forward, in those moments of your best presentation is not when you're going through your biggest times of growth. And so maybe less on-screen time and a more private group event setting like this one that's going to be on September 5th. We can be a little bit more vulnerable together and discuss, well, first of all, things that are going great for us, the things that we wish that we were spending more time on, and the things that keep us from spending that time on those activities. So that's what we're going to be talking about on September 5th. I will add a link in here, but it's been scrolling on the bottom of the screen the whole time. You can go to heidzalyncoaching.com, and if you scroll down on the homepage a little bit, you're going to see that you're invited picture. And you can click the button and get the Zoom link and join us for that event next week. So hopefully I see you, and I will talk to you guys.